What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Grid Encore. I'm your host, Ben Snyder, joined, as always, by Brandon Crossland. Brandon, how's it going?
It's going well, Ben. Good to see you, and good to see everyone again here on Grid Encore. It's another Motor Monday, and a little stronger this time. We got some espresso action going on because I think we're gonna need it.
I bought a 2-liter Baja Blast for a certain YouTube short that I made yesterday, so don't worry. This is just pure Baja Blast, not mixed with the milk this time. But I'm ready to go here myself.
Of course, because you got to consume the prop after you've used it. It's
of course
you gotta take care of that stuff.
Got a whole 2 liters that I need to make sure I consume here. Hopefully not all.
Darn, what to do?
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. But first, as always, want to give a shout out to our Patreon investors here at the Grid Network, Colin Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew. Thank you all so much for your continued support of what we're trying to build here. And if you like what you see tonight, you want to consider joining them, you can visit the link in the video description box below if you're watching us live on YouTube. Or if you'd rather make a one-time contribution to us instead, you can always use the super chat option or visit the Buy Me a Coffee link also in the description box below. Any amount helps us continue to grow our motorsports media outlet here at the Grid Network. And regardless, just subscribing to us here on YouTube or visiting our newly relaunched website at gridnetworktv.com helps us out tremendously as well. So we appreciate all the support. And with that, let's jump right into it. Obviously, we had an Xfinity Series and ARCA Series race this weekend at Talladega Superspeedway, but because neither of us are on the wrap-up show regularly these days, I do want to spend a little bit of time opening up the show here with an open segment on the Cup Series race. We'll get into kind of some of the comparisons that are being made between the styles of racing that we're seeing in Xfinity and Cup here a little bit later. But first, Brandon, I want to ask you from your perspective here, because this is something that affects all three National Touring Series, and we've seen it, obviously just last week at Rockingham with Jesse Love losing his victory and Sammy Smith inheriting the win. No such bad luck for Austin Cindric this time. He maintains the win, but I guess we better be glad he beat Ryan Preece to the start-finish line. Otherwise, we'd be talking about a first-time winner having his victory taken away from him. Ryan Preece losing second place due to a disqualification. Joey Logano also getting sent to last place in the fields there. So again, very similar situation to what we had at Rockingham, because Justin Bonsinger also got disqualified. So for the second week in a row, even though the guy fighting for the win got disqualified and lost the majority of his points and positions here, he's still not on the last car info article, because there was another car that got disqualified as well. And interestingly enough, obviously RCR decided to appeal their disqualification for Jesse Love. They lost that appeal. Team Penske and RFK Racing for Logano and Preece respectively have both said this was not intentional. We don't believe it provided a competitive advantage, and yet they will not appeal these penalties. So, Brandon, I know we talked about this a little bit last week, how frustrating it is for the fans to leave the track thinking that they've seen a winner, for the winning team to be taking all the pictures and celebrating everything, and then only as much as 90 minutes, 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours after the race ends do we find out there's actually been a change in the results. We all know why this system is in place now. It's because we were seeing so many encumbered victories, and people were saying, how can you keep the win if you have an illegal car? But now that we're several years into this, do you think it's maybe time to simplify post-race inspection a little bit? I see so many people saying, how can the car pass pre-race and then fail post-race? Do you think there's a better solution to try to ensure that encumbered victories don't happen, but that maybe it's a simpler process that we're not finding out well after the broadcast has gone off the air and after the fans have left the track, or maybe even pulled back into their driveway?
Man, this is such a big topic, because it's one of those things where you really need to be there, boots on the ground, and have that, I don't know, be one of those certified inspectors with, the engineering background, the technical background. And it's a topic that a lot of race fans and media alike can say we know a lot about, but I guarantee there's so much about this and all the process that goes into it, and what counts and what doesn't, that are just millimeters away, or just things that are moving from the beginning of the race where you pass pre-race inspection to the end, that we have no idea of all the things that go into just the slightest of advantages, that whether they intended to do them or not is a strict rule book that's there in place for a reason. And just the smallest of inches or millimeters that can make the difference for a car, give them an advantage, whether they intended for it to do that or not, at a place like Talladega or anywhere else we go on the calendar. So I do like the idea of anything being simple, whether it's the standings or how we call races, or whether it's anything on the mechanical side. I think simple is always a good thing. It's better for the fans that want to understand things. But when it comes to this sort of thing, where it's things in the inspection line, it's getting into the realm where I really don't feel like I feel comfortable saying, oh yeah, it needs to be simpler, do it like this, because that's when it gets down to the literal nuts and bolts of things, where I don't think I have a place to say. But I mean, it would be nice for things to be a little more clearer, and certainly it seems I've noticed that pattern though of, I remember one of my biggest videos on YouTube was saying Kevin Harvick's win is encumbered. Like, that was such a big news flash to come the day after, or on Tuesday or whenever it was, there from, I think it was Texas or somewhere like that.
So yeah,
Texas Motor Speedway, which, hey, we're going there this Sunday. But yeah, it's something that I would like to be simplified if they can, but I'm not sure if they can. But what I was going back to is I have seen this as sort of a pattern. I feel like we'll get a little stretch of races where we don't have any post-race disqualifications for a while, but it's like once we get one, like, they start coming in waves, do they not? Have you not noticed that pattern?
it does kind of feel like that. And again, I have mixed feelings about this, because I know Nice Motorsports is doing that throwback to Ross Chastain's Iowa win that they still claim to this day, but they have the banner hanging in the shop, and now he's talking about I had the contract in place, we were going to shut the team down, and I don't know, that whole attitude kind of rubs me the wrong way. If you had an illegal truck, and again, that was my attitude in 2019 after we had so many issues with encumbered wins. I mean, heck, Denny Hamlin swept the weekend one time, had an Xfinity win and Cup win, and they were both encumbered because the car failed post-race inspection. So it was getting ridiculous. I think it was time to change how we were doing things. And I think if you can prove that it was egregious enough that it provided a clear, undeniable competitive advantage, then absolutely you strip them of the win. But if it's something where the car passes tech in pre-race and then something happens during the course of the race, whether it's damage from, especially at this track, like bump drafting or anything like that, and it's an inadvertent part failure, or something comes off the car or comes loose or whatever, and it can't be shown that it provides a competitive advantage, I don't know. I feel like a disqualification, first of all, it messes with reordering the standings and everything, people having to rewrite and revise their post-race reports and things like that, and go through the implications of how the changing results impacts the rest of the entire season. I mean, my goodness, Joey Logano wouldn't be a three-time champion if Alex Bowman hadn't had that part fall off his car of a Charlotte Roval, right? So, I mean, it's just, it bothers me that we're sitting here so often, it seems like nowadays, and we think we have our stories ready to go. I mean, just go ask Matthew Breaux what he had to do this weekend. And Brock Beard obviously was at the track, so he said he couldn't even start his article, but I'm sure he's planning out, who he's going to write the piece about, and then has to go and, do some more research and figure out what he's going to say, especially when it's a disqualification and impacts who the last place finisher is. I just don't, again, I'm with the fan base, the part of the fan base that says, how can a car be fine in pre-race and then be modified that much during the race or between the impound session or whatever the case may be, whatever the situation is. And again, full disclosure, full caveat here, I have no mechanical engineering background whatsoever. I don't know what goes into the inspection process or the nuts and bolts of these race cars or everything. I'm just speaking from a fan's perspective to know that I could leave the track, because it's always in the back of my mind. Like, if we get a cool story or an upset win, like Parker Kligerman at Daytona this year. What a feel-good story. Man, I hope he passes tech.
Don't remind me, please. Spare me.
I got to tell myself in my mind, like, oh, Ben, you're worried for nothing. What are the chances, right? And then, boom, of course, right? And then he goes out on social media and says, we have clear-cut positive proof that this was not a competitive advantage, that this was inadvertent. We have a very strong case for the appeals process, and the appeal gets denied. So you start thinking to yourself, okay, why does it? I mean, I guess I can see why Penske and RFK aren't going to appeal this because it seems like nobody wins their appeals. Well, Ryan Blaney got disqualified a couple of years ago during the playoffs. They appealed that, and then it got reinstated. So, I mean, that's twice that Brock had to go back and revise his article. I guess he just had to unrevise it because it was the original last place finisher.
Go back to the original draft.
Re-inherits that last place finish. Yeah, but I mean, what if and again, this is kind of why, because I remember thinking in 2019, because I had met Ross Chastain the fall before and was pulling for him to rebound from a whole DC Solar deal. So I was rooting for him in the Mellon Man Challenge and everything. And I was like, strangely enough, I kind of hope they don't win the appeal, because if the first disqualification in years in NASCAR is undone through an appeal process, well, then you set a precedent that they'll be able to go into the appeals office and, say, well, the very first one you were able to overturn, so why can't you overturn ours? So I understand it's a complicated situation, but it's also a very frustrating situation. And I can't help but wonder if we did a more thorough look at the cars pre-race and then handed out any penalties that needed to be handed out for teams that were trying to push the boundaries or whatever, and simplify the process post-race. I'm not saying you don't do a post-race inspection. Like, of course, I'm sure there are minor things here or there that can be tweaked. But I mean, we talk about this a lot recently as well with the All-Star race coming up in North Wilkesboro. I think loosening the rule book to begin with would go a long way in allowing for that. But I mean, just maybe a simpler post-race check on pit road, so that if something is illegal to the point where we knew that it provided a competitive advantage and needs to be disqualified, we can at least get that taken care of within 10 minutes rather than 110 minutes. Or we can have the broadcast still be on the air to be able to break the news, or most of the fans are still leaving the grandstands trying to get out of the facility, and word travels fast and they at least can leave the track knowing the result, rather than thinking that they've seen something that they actually haven't seen because it's going to get overturned 2 hours later with a disqualification. That's the most frustrating part to me.
Yeah, that's the part that stinks. But I mean, on the other side of the coin, I'm glad that the sanctioning body will go to those dire lengths to make sure that things are indeed legal, whether it's pre or post inspection. And when I see disqualifications like that, I'm gutted for the driver, but at the same time, I also am glad that some people in the back room care enough about the integrity of the sport, which in a sport where they already deal so much with questioning about their integrity as it is, and their legitimacy as a sport as it is. I'm glad that somewhere in that links they are not afraid to, make fan bases, just because it makes fan bases mad, they're not afraid to say, no, this car is not compliant with the rule book as it is, and you're going to the back of the line, buddy.
Yeah, and it does make me laugh. Anytime I hear, NASCAR favors Hendrick or NASCAR favors Gibbs or NASCAR has a deal with Ford or whatever. Like Alex Bowman got thrown out of the playoffs.
Yep.
Denny Hamlin and I think it was Kyle Busch, right? The 1-2 at Pocono. And he won the race. He didn't get to keep the trophy. The first Cup winner in decades to, have that misfortune.
Yeah, that doesn't go too good. That doesn't go too good for NASCAR social for your top level drivers getting kicked out.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, you had a Chevy with Bowman, you had Toyotas with Gibbs back then, and this weekend it happens to be an RFK and Penske Ford. So I don't think you can make that argument that like, oh, they're going to try to create a good storyline, and if somebody finishes second, then they'll DQ. Like, of course, that's all conspiracy garbage that I don't buy into. But I would just say, again, speaking at it from a neutral fan's perspective, like what a story it would have been in some ways for Sammy Smith after a very difficult post-race deal at Martinsville. Granted, it was of his own doing, but regardless, I'm sure he was dealing with a lot of hate coming his way on social media, and had to be hard on him as he's a young man trying to learn how to earn respect in this sport. To be able to rebound and then go win a couple weeks later, it sounds great on paper, but that's all it is. It's on paper. You bring that 8 font back to victory lane on paper, but all the photos and Jesse Love, I think, even said he's keeping the trophy, right? We came for a trophy, we're keeping the trophy, and again, I don't love that attitude either, but it does. If I'm in Sammy Smith in that scenario, where I'm a crew member for Junior Motorsports in the 8 team, like yeah, I'd kind of, I mean, I wouldn't know if I would be able to fully celebrate this win either, because I know it counts for points and the prize money and all that, but you don't have the memories of the photos or crossing the line with the thrill of victory or anything like that. So it's just, I don't know. It's an unfortunate situation that unfortunately has become, if this were like once a year we see a disqualification, like teams are rarely pushing the boundaries, or there's not as many rules to break that you can't go past the line here, and we didn't see it as often, maybe it wouldn't be such an issue for me. But it has been incredibly frustrating these last couple of weeks to have to revise our storylines, because we had to wait a whole 2.5 hours for post race inspection rather to finish up, and that's frustrating as a race fan.
That's very frustrating, and I agree that if there's anything they can do to simplify that, I would love to hear it.
Yeah. Let's catch up on the chat here. One of our regulars, Adam, saying hopefully it will be an outstanding Xfinity race at Talladega when I attend in October. I always forget if they're going to come back in October or not. I know they've been kind of going on and off the schedule. I always think like Busch Series nationwide Xfinity should be in the spring and the trucks go there in the fall. But Xfinity Series added that fall date a few years ago, and it's been rotating on and off the calendar ever since. But hope it's a good one when you attend, Adam. And
enjoy that.
I was keeping up with Brock's journeys myself, obviously, and glad to see he enjoyed his stay. It's unfortunate what happened at Rockingham with the media credentials. I know I can't speak too much on that here on the air, but I'm glad he was at least able to make the most of it while he was out there and attend both of those races and get some good photos for the site and everything. Denver, another one of our regulars. NASCAR is such a prickly motorsport series with stupid, prickly rules that frustrated me when learning Cup, Xfinity, and trucks. Yeah, I mean, I can't say I disagree.
It's Formula One.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you want to talk about getting technical with the rules in Formula One. I think that's probably your highest level of series that you would look at there, with all the ins and outs that go into those regulations. But again, I think it's also the most, it allows for the most creative freedom. Maybe not as much nowadays with the cost cap, but you can visibly tell the difference between a Mercedes and a McLaren and a Williams chassis and an Aston Martin chassis. They're all using Mercedes engines, but there's freedom in how you build the cars. Whereas you come over here to NASCAR and an RFK Ford looks the exact same as a Penske Ford to the naked eye. You can't really tell a difference there. So, there's layers to that in all different areas.
I don't think that's a bad thing, but
sure. Yeah. It's different series have different rules there.
Right.
In that regard. In supercars, if you have a loose spoiler bolt, they say that you're lucky, but you didn't lose your spoiler and have common sense about it. When you want to talk about a popular win, I remember Michael Waltrip winning his one and only truck race at Daytona in 2011, 10 years to the day of his Daytona 500 win. Very emotional victory. Half of his rear spoiler fell down. I'm sure that wasn't intentional, but I think if that happened today, Elliott Sadler would have won that race, because I don't think that truck would have passed. I think there was a points penalty or a fine or whatever. Obviously, Michael wasn't running for truck points for the championship, but I remember DW was in the booth and said, well, I guarantee you the win will stand. There might be a fine or a penalty, but the win is not going to be taken away. If that happened today, I hate to say it, but I think the win would be taken away. All right, so we'll leave it there. Obviously, lots to continue to talk about with this conversation, and I'm sure it'll come up the next time we have a disqualification. But let's talk very briefly before we get into the Xfinity Series race. Brandon, I know you saw that clip that was shared in our Slack chat, but NASCAR Man posted to Twitter some comparison between the Cup Series and Xfinity Series finish. The Gluck poll, slight majority says no, it was not a good race. I think it's still 44-56. It's hard for some fans, I think, to complain about any super speedway race due to the unpredictable nature of it. But I think regardless of how you feel, there's no denying that the Xfinity race was different, at least from the Cup Series race in terms of how the finish played out.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that side-by-side comparison in the current conversation about how the Cup Series race finished yesterday?
Yeah, when I actually just saw that video like an hour ago, because I just haven't been around X too much this weekend, but I did see that there, and it was just a request from Denny Hamlin on Actions Instrumental, so he's just able to request. He's like, I'm sure someone on X will do this if I ask nicely. But what they did, they got the side by side. The first thing I was looking for, I thought I was about to see the Xfinity cars like getting around a lap quicker than the Cup cars. I thought at first I didn't know what the whole thing was about, so I thought that's what I was looking for at first. But then I had to watch it again when I found out that's not the case. Cup cars are actually going a little bit faster as they should. They're at Talladega in the draft, but yeah, the racing is clearly a lot more compelling on the Xfinity side of the table, and I hate that it's that way. But I mean, looking at the Cup race at the end, the Xfinity race on Saturday, I was on my feet. I was all right. It's getting down to it. One lap to go. There's not many races that I don't know. There's not too many races that get you off on your feet like Talladega. So that was definitely compelling to me as I saw it, and also going back to watch it again. The Cup race, it was somewhat compelling to me at the end. I got to stand on my word. I did say that it was a good race for what it's worth. I mean, for what we have, I know nothing's perfect. The car's not perfect. The racing's not perfect. But for what it's worth, that was a pretty good Talladega Cup race. And you're not going to hear me complain too much about it. I'm not going to contribute to that. You can, if you want to find people complaining about it, you know where to go. But like, I don't know. We complain so much that like I'm just fine with it for what it's worth. Like, I know it'll get better one day, maybe, but the Xfinity Series has got it going on, and that side by side showed that.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest. I understand. Believe me, I understand the fans' concerns. I understand what the click poll is where it's at. I cannot complain about that finish. The fact that it wasn't a single file train. I mean, and some people say it was basically two side by side single file trains, I guess. But we finished in regulation under green without a big wreck. That's honest. At this point, that is the anomaly, and that is a win in my book. I guess what I would say is, kind of to bring the broke joke woke meme format back, I guess you could say broke is like super speedway racing used to be good. Joke is super speedway racing is always good, and woke, which is maybe where I fall in this situation, would be super speedway racing was never good, because you see, I've seen people clip posts of that single file train from the mid 2000s and clips of people saving fuel and strategies playing out, and it's like, how is this any different than what we saw this weekend? And I think the counter to that would be the Xfinity Series. But I don't. The more I have matured, the more that I just kind of look back, and whether it's the tandem drafting era or pack racing or the Gen 6 era or whatever rules package we have here, everybody's in a massive pack. There's any sort of potential at any given moment for a driver to make a mistake and a wrong move to end your day, not of your own doing. And, a lot of it is just because these races are 500 miles. I don't think either Talladega race really needs to be 500 miles, because a lot of it is just riding around and fuel saving. And then, because of the culture that we have created nowadays, almost every time you get under 10 laps and somebody inevitably pulls a ill-advised block or tries to make a hole fit where it doesn't, and we end up with multiple overtimes and $1 million junkyard in the infield at Daytona or Talladega. And I'm sorry, I don't like that.
There was no overtimes on Sunday or Saturday.
Well, that is true. But as we'll talk about in a second, the Xfinity race did not get their green flag finish. So
it's almost as if they ended under yellow to me. That's how I saw it. Yeah. So, I mean, again, I understand. And again, I know that that's an unpopular opinion for me to have, because, there are a lot of fans that only watch the super speedway races because, the thrill and the adrenaline that a 200-mile-an-hour pack can bring. And again, if you're in that 40, whatever it is, 44% or whatever, I'm happy for you. I'm certainly not going to be one of these fans that's saying anybody who's saying yes is just a yes man paid off by NASCAR to be a corporate shill, and they don't know what they're talking about, and they don't know good racing when they see it. I'm happy to agree to disagree. If you liked what you saw, I'm happy for you. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, that you need to criticize it. I do agree. You do the same for me and respect my opinion, and accept that it's just not for me. And that's where we can leave it there. I do agree with the corporate shills that four wide racing, and where you're not actually trying, you're just conserving fuel at the beginning. That's still really compelling to me. I'm telling you,
I get visually it's better than the train. I will give you that. But it's just when it's marketed as, oh, look, this is 8.5 minutes of nonstop 4 wide racing in a pack. And I know better to know that they're just saving fuel. They're just riding around. They're not actually, it's not like the 4 wide we saw in 2012, the finish to that fall race before Tony Stewart threw that block and Dale Jr. got concussed. And it was a massive, I think that's now the second biggest wreck we've ever had in the Cup Series because we broke that record last year, unfortunately. That was a half a lap away from being awesome and truly epic. And it's unfortunate that they couldn't bring it through turns 3 and 4. And although maybe if they had, they would have just wrecked him a trial anyway. I don't know. But that was awesome. That was compelling. I don't think you can compare that 4 wide by 4 by 4 by 4 all the way back to what we saw last fall or what we saw yesterday to a lesser extent as well.
Well, sure. But let me say it this way. Would you rather have fuel saving 4 abreast, or would you rather have it 2020 Daytona dual style where it's a choo-choo train on the
I'd rather have it 4 abreast. I can give you that.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's how they market it. They market it as
sure. Yeah, that's
look at this 4 wide insanity when
if you got it, use it, I guess. If you're a TV broadcaster, that's your mindset.
And I understand everything's about posting for clicks and for engagement.
Absolutely.
And we certainly know that business, you and I both, obviously, right? But it's just like, well, I know that it's not actually like everybody's got everything under control, right? These are professionals. They know how to. It's like you're driving down. Don't quote me on this. I think Chase Briscoe was the one that responded to Junior's tweet because Junior was saying like, I'm on a plane, I can't watch How's the Race, and he was like, imagine I-77 at 200 miles an hour or something like that, like a traffic jam, and I don't know.
Listen,
it's not like the finish of 2012. That's just if they're 4 wide, and that's where the similarities end.
Imagine the happy-go-lucky fan is your 5-year-old son. You're going out to see this mascot at a baseball game. Now the mascot is some guy in a suit, but to your kid, that's like the best thing ever.
Sure,
let them have fun for the beginning of the race, and let the dad's going to play along with the son. That's the way I saw it. Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying like, oh, these kids should be, shaking their fists like they're the old men yelling at the clouds or whatever. And,
you and I both
rise
know.
up with us, like, like
you and I both know they're going 40% at 50%, and they're holding on. Yeah.
The first race I ever watched was the fall Talladega race in 06.
Right.
And again, I saw our friend Matthew Owens included this in his tweet. He was saying like that. I think that was one of the screenshots that he used was they were single file with 2 laps to go. Junior was trying to hold off Jimmy Johnson and Brian Vickers, and that's hardly the greatest Talladega finish ever. But to me, as a kid who had just seen Pixar's Cars in theaters and was just trying to eat everything up I could of the sport, like. Right. I loved it, and I recognized Junior from the Cars movie because he had a cameo there, and I was pulling for him on the last lap, and was upset when he got taken out. Like you view it through a different lens when you're a 7-year-old versus a 25-year-old trying to be a pundit and look to provide constructive criticism of the sport which you fell in love with when you were a kid. So
and just imagine if you were there as a kid seeing that, like, oh my goodness, that would have been
an experience for sure. All right, 2 more comments from Denver, and then we'll move on to the Xfinity race. Why doesn't NASCAR take stages away on super speedways and crown jewel races to make it a war?
Attrition.
Attrition. Yeah, I'm sure that's just auto right there.
Eat your bananas.
Yeah. I mean, me. I would love to take stages away everywhere. At least don't throw a caution. But again, I don't. It's a whole other can of worms that we've talked about on the past show, but. I don't know. We need to.
Cool idea. I would like it, but
I'd like it too. I don't think it's going to happen. We'll leave it there. And no ad breaks during the races as well. We went to commercial. I was at our track banquet. I could only get back to see the last 9 laps of the race live. And as soon as I turn it on, they say they're going to commercial side by side with 9 to go to Super Speedway. And one of the commercials, this is what's insane to me. One of the commercials during the side by side was a Wendy's commercial for 30 seconds. They stayed, I don't even know who it was. Was it Suarez? They stayed on the Wendy's onboard for the entirety of that Wendy's commercial. And then in the same ad break, the same Wendy's commercial comes back. How much did Wendy's pay for this? I have to know.
A lot.
I have to know.
Probably a lot. They do the whole Daytona activation, like the whole little Wendy's land area, right? And they got the whole Michael Waltrip and Jamie Little golf cart skit every year. I mean, they're putting a lot of money, especially at these big super speedways.
If Wendy's is going to pay that much money, then I don't know. Make it like the Toyota All Out segments that they were doing, where it's just, this is Wendy's All Out, or Wendy's, the limited commercial interruption presented by Wendy's or something. Make sure that, they can at least give us, at least the finish to a super speedway race should be, you shouldn't be taking a commercial with 9 to go anywhere really, but especially on a super speedway. That was just, I don't care if it's side by side. That's just absurd in 2025. When Formula One is doing races commercial free, that you can't tweak the business model to make sure that you're not having to take a commercial with 9 to go under green.
We'll have to call up Mother's Wax or Mercedes-Benz or something if you want exclusive coverage.
Polish, I think. Yeah.
Polish, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Fox Sports needs a racing channel, so the whole race is ad-free. Well, I mean, again, I don't know if a racing channel would fix that.
Speed.
Yeah. I'd love to bring back speed as much as anybody. But yeah, I mean, it's just, again, that's a whole can of worms we could open, the business model of the sport, and that'll be a subject for another time. Let's move on now. Let's talk about the Xfinity Series race. A little bit of controversy here at the end. Connor Zilisch got turned, single car accident, and granted, it was pretty serious. Zilisch needed some assistance getting out of his car, and we certainly hope that he is going to be okay for the rest of his season here. But they ultimately threw the caution right as Austin Hill and Jeb Burton were basically dead even. Jeb still says he thinks he won the race. NASCAR must have had another angle. They declared Austin Hill the winner. Brandon, I don't know if you got to see the finish or you have any opinion on what angle you saw, who you think won this race here. But my biggest frustration is, I mean, again, it would have been a cool story for Jordan Anderson's team and Jeb Burton to win again. I know Austin Hill's been a great super speedway racer wanting to win Talladega. This was the last check mark he had to check off his list in that style of racing and tracks here. So congratulations to him. But at the same time, your heart has to go out to Jeb Burton and Jordan Anderson's team. And the biggest frustration for me is, why did we throw the yellow again for a single car accident when you can't tell me there wasn't enough time to slow down before they got to where Zilisch was on the backstretch?
That is very true. And I was thinking about that in the back of my mind before we had the whole thing about the checking the cameras for the finish. But yeah, that's really tough for and I'm glad Connor Zilisch is okay. He was talking about his back and hoping that it's not something that might show up later in the year. I just hope that's all fully healed and it was just more of a shock than something long term. But Jeb Burton, you got to feel for him. But at the same time, I was completely convinced by the CW coverage. They showed not one but like 3 or 4 different angles of that finish. And it's not as and good on Adam Alexander for clarifying. It was basically fact checking live on the air because Jeb said something about scoring loop or timing loop or something, and AAA or AA wanted to make sure that's not what they do. That's actually it's a whole they go by the exact point caution was put out, and they have the cameras there that are time stamped. But yeah, looking at one of them, it looked like Jeb may have a chance, but like the other 2 or 3 there, you could see just a matter of feet there on the outside for Austin Hill was what made their decision. And I saw that too. And yeah, I hate that for Jeb because you could see, for one thing, he didn't really get a chance to see the rest of the angles, and so he was still dead convinced that he was the winner. And you heard the emotion of just how hard it is to win one of these, and just really wanted one. And you have to be in the car the whole time thinking you've won it. You have to be on the front stretch with the 3 other top 3 finishers because you have to wait for NASCAR to figure it out. It's just a agonizing process that we have to go through, but I mean it's necessary. If you're gonna have that sort of finish, you have to go back to snapshots to see who's gonna win. But it was agonizing and agonizing for Jeb. But no, I don't think he has a case. As much as I think he was looking at it through I was gonna say golden covered glasses because of Golden Corral, but unfortunately I don't think there's a case for him.
Feel for Golden Corral too. Would have loved to see them sponsor back in victory lane as well. But Yeah, it's again, the biggest frustration for me is just, what we started the year talking about at Daytona, this consistent inconsistency of do we or don't we throw a yellow on the last lap. And as much as there was concern for Zilisch, and I've got the Sports Illustrated Racing America article pulled up here. There's a quote from him that says, "Yeah, I'm all good." One of those wrecks where you just kind of tinkle your toes and move your legs, make sure you're still good. It hurt. I'll be sore, but really grateful to walk away. So definitely some concern there, and taking X-rays as a precaution. I don't want to minimize that, but at the same time, this is the biggest track in NASCAR, and I don't know. I feel like a single car incident, to throw a yellow there, much like the fall Cup race 20 years ago, Dale Jarrett's last one when Kyle Petty was wrecking on the backstretch. I feel like the caution for a single car incident more than halfway down the backstretch is more than enough time for the field to be able to race back to the line and be able to slow down before you start running into that instant at full speed. And again, I'm hesitant to even. I feel a little conflicted here because I don't want to minimize the safety aspect of it at all. But it's incredibly frustrating that we keep having these finishes, particularly on super speedways where a wreck happens and then it's like any single point on this last half lap here could be the finish line.
And the butt decides.
You think what a race is supposed to be. A race is supposed to have an ending point. That's the start-finish line. You're supposed to race back to that finishing point that everybody knows, like, okay, I need to be in the lead here. It doesn't matter if I'm in second place here because the goal is to be in the lead. Well, now a driver spins out. You don't know if the caution is going to come out. Well, now you just need to be in the lead at any given moment because you don't know when the race is going to end. It's a completely arbitrary thing that is controlled by whoever presses that button in the control tower. And again, I'm not saying that they waited for Austin Hill to make the pass and then they hit of course, it's not like they're playing favorites up there. But when you think about it, they do really have the power to control who wins and loses these races here at the push of a button. And I think that should be the absolute resort here, only when it's absolutely necessary because there's a safety condition on the track that requires it. I don't think a single car accident, more than halfway down the back straightaway is justification for that. I just don't.
It's a component of racing that was never there to begin with. The idea of you have not the line, but you have to be in the lead, and you have to, like, after you see a wreck, you better be in the lead and you better stay there because at any point that they're gonna hit the press your luck button and it's gonna to land on you. Or it won't. Like that does irk me too.
Yeah.
But I know why they do it. I've seen why they do it. I just wish we didn't have to do it. But we are.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's your game show reference for the episode. Jeb Burton couldn't avoid the whammy and ends up losing to Austin Hill there. I still need to go see the Michael Larson movie that's out now, The Luckiest Man in America. It's got a limited theatrical release. I couldn't see it when it opened because of my sister's wedding being that weekend, but I've got to try to find that at some point. I guess I might just have to wait until it comes to streaming at this point. I might have missed out on that, but
just be patient. Don't get too greedy.
Nice. Appreciate that.
That was really stretching.
Yeah. That might be more of a Tate McRae reference than a game show reference in 2025. But
I don't know who that is.
Well, we'll leave it. All right, we'll leave it there. Let's go on to the second page here. Let's just address another unfortunate incident real quick before we move on. Eric Almirola, Catherine Light coming together, and again, you really have to feel for Catherine and the continued struggles that she's going through. And to Eric's credit, he did admit that he moved up when he shouldn't have. I know there was some talk about his spotter clearing him before he was actually clear, but unfortunate deal for Catherine Legg, who did lead part of this race, and give her credit where it's due there. I think she's certainly silenced a lot of her doubters and proved that when given the right opportunity, she does belong in this series and has talent behind the wheel. And it's unfortunate, and we heard overheard some radio chatter as well. I think it was from the 16 team. Saying that wasn't even her fault, and then someone else coming back on the radio and saying, yep, but she'll get blamed for it. That's just the world that we live in, unfortunately. But I'm really, really hoping that Catherine's luck can turn around later this year, and she can actually find her way to the finish in one of these races and maximize getting that experience and bring the car home in one piece. Because again, regardless of whose fault you thought it was at Rockingham, I think we can all agree, if we're looking through it through an objective lens here, but this was just one of those racing deals that happens at a super speedway, can happen to anybody, and it's unfortunate it's happened to her after what's been a tough start to her 2025. So we'll continue to monitor her season, obviously, on the Women in Motorsports show, and also here when she returns to the Xfinity Series. But again, just really unfortunate deal for her to not be able to get the finish that she probably deserved on a week where Jordan Anderson Racing Team, even though it's heartbreak for Jeb Burton, you still had him up there in 7th, and a great run for Blaine Perkins as well, also in the top 10.
She's got some great promise to actually, have something good come out of this with some more persistence, because I mean, you just can't avoid that. And Eric Almirola was very heavy on his spotter on that, very heavy. Yeah, and I know he able to clean it up for the interview, but that was absolutely, to me, that was absolutely a spotter call. Of it was just a matter of feet, not you're clear, and then like it's that, I don't know how you gauge that. There's just that delayed. I heard him say clear. Now I'm moving. Well, now you're not clear. It's like that matter of feet there on the backstretch. It's just so wound tight. And that's week 2 of me saying wound tight. I don't know why I keep saying that, but yeah. I use that to describe Rockingham Speedway.
Yeah, we know what you mean there. And like I said, unfortunate deal for both of them there. Hopefully, Kathleen Lake in particular, her luck can turn around later this season. We move on now to the ARCA race results here. Congratulations to Lawless Alan, finally breaking through. Brandon, this is somebody that we've covered here throughout the entire history of this show, and Lawless, had an opportunity to get some starts in the West Series with BMR in 2019, 2020, and then moved up to the Truck Series. Has not had too much success in his, I think, 3 full-time seasons there, 2 with Nice Motorsports, 1 with the Rion brothers. Is now racing in ARCA with Venturini, and credit where it's due, leading the most laps, winning this race over Thad Moffitt. Best career finish for him, and Isabella Robusto as well, his Venturini teammate, coming away with a 3rd place finish, the highest finish ever for a female driver in an ARCA race at Talladega. And some big news involving both of their teams, both Lawless and Isabella's, and Thad's as well. Thad driving for Nitro Motorsports here, and obviously Venturini in the news. Last week we didn't talk about this on the show because we had enough to recap at Rockingham, but Venturini Motorsports, as we know it, will no longer be around starting next year. Nitro Motorsports has acquired all of their assets. Billy V is going to stay on as a general manager through 2026 and kind of oversee that transition. But Brandon, this, I have to imagine, is fairly significant news, not just for the ARCA Menards Series, but for the entire Toyota development driver pipeline here. 4 drivers like each of our top 3 here, who I guess might be teammates next year, depending on how the rides shake out. But what was your reaction to the news that one of ARCA's most storied teams is selling to Nitro Motorsports?
Really surprising, and also showing me that how big Nitro Motorsports' pocketbook must be. That's a huge acquisition. It's kind of like thinking back to the Trackhouse acquiring Chip Ganassi Racing's Cup program.
Yeah.
Just absolutely massive deal. And you might be able to compare. Well, no, it's not really comparable because Bill Venturini going to be helping them, transition for a year. I don't think that's something that Chip Ganassi was doing with Trackhouse at all. That was just a Marks coming in and setting up shop. But it'll be interesting to see that year of transition, and it is nice that they'll have that help there from the seller. It's kind of weird. It's like someone living in your house after you bought the house from them, and they live with you for the next year and making sure you know how everything works and you're up to speed. But having the money in the ARCA Menards Series, one would think that they're going to retain the speed that we've been accustomed to. But
yeah, I'm sure they will.
I'm sure, yeah, definitely sure that they will. But just looking through Nitro Motorsports and seeing they're also involved with the Trans Am Series, so they got their footprint in multiple disciplines here. So that also offers and that's another similarity to Trackhouse racing, being involved in MotoGP and everything. But it also tells me that they might possibly have different talent pools to pull from as well. So we'll see what the Nitro Motorsports era is like.
Yeah, lots to look forward to. And again, I'm sure we'll touch on this story on the Women in Motorsports show as well. Again, Venturing Motorsports has had a long list of female drivers come through their race team, and also be the first all-female pit crew going way back into the day when that team was just getting started, really. And obviously, once Billy stepped away from the driver's seat on a full-time basis, I know he came back and did that one-off Flat Rock last year, but he has really overseen tremendous results, countless race wins, and multiple championships in this series as well. And it is going to be strange not seeing that name in this series for much longer here. But again, if these two programs' success this weekend is any indication, I think that'll still be a force to be reckoned with for many years to come in this series. So going to be very interesting to see how that partnership develops. I'm sure their biggest competition is still going to be probably that Gibbs number 18 car, Williams Sawallich, coming with a 9th place finish. And look who squeezed into the top 10 there. Garrett Mitchell, a.k.a. Cletus McFarland. Great to see him back in the ARCA series. And especially after that unfortunate deal at Daytona with his day ending early to be able to get a top 10 job well done for him.
Yeah, absolutely. He is a character. And if you watch anything motorsport related at all on YouTube, I guarantee he's shown up in your related videos or suggested videos. So you've come across him one time or two. But the report I keep hearing is, oh wow, I can't believe how tall he is. Like he's actually a giant.
Yeah, and I think it's great for ARCA to have him, and I hope that it is a one-off here at these super speedways. We'd love to see him back, and I think it's great publicity for the series. I forget the numbers exactly, but I know I think NASCAR's YouTube channel saw a pretty massive boost in subscribers just from live streaming his in-car camera this weekend. So good things happening for everybody involved here with this deal for him to be in ARCA. So hopefully that continues.
I think Clint Boyer said on the broadcast this weekend that about Cletus McFarland that he goes around doing all the things we wish we could have done as kids. As far as like cars, just buying a short track, and racing this, and
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, no doubt. All right, well, we're gonna wrap up the show here tonight. Thank you all for tuning in and helping us through our Talladega recap here. It's a great discussion in the chat with Adam in Denver, and thank you all again for watching. Before we let you all go here, obviously we have the one shining moment in closing, and then some final thoughts here. So Brandon, I'll kick it off with you here. From what you saw this weekend in Talladega, what was the one thing that stood out to you?
I've got 3 in a row here, and it's all from the Xfinity Series.
You got 3, all right.
It's very short. Just want to shout out 5th, 6th, and 7th. Matt DiBenedetto for Viking Motorsports. And, if you're going to do well with a startup team like this, this is the place. These are the kinds of places you have to shoot for. And Matt DiBenedetto is good, I think, at drafting tracks from the top of my head. So it was good to see him get a top 5 finish there with this brand new team that has a fantastic website, by the way. If you haven't looked at Viking Motorsports' website, they're dedicated to this whole Viking thing. I mean, the brand is very solid. So whoever's making that website is doing an awesome job. 6th place to Anthony Alfredo, a great finish for Anthony, fast pasta, and in the 42, and just getting these opportunities as he can. Great job, and also Blaine Perkins finishing 7th. He moved up in the standings after Talladega. Up, where are you? I just had you there. He moved up. Oh man. 3 spots in the standings after that 7th place finish. So there's my three shining moments for the one shining moment.
This is a nice website. I just pulled it up. I hadn't been to their website yet, but pretty cool design there. Good to see them running well. I'm also going to give the shining moment to Blaine Perkins, but like I said, the entire Jordan Anderson Racing team. Jeb Burton, again, I know certainly wish he could have had one more spot, but a great run nonetheless. Blaine Perkins, obviously, again, much like Lawless Alan, a driver who came from the West Series and has kind of struggled to find success in the top 3 series. So good to see good things happening for him. And then obviously, even though 34th is not the finish that she would have wanted, Catherine Legge, showing that the potential is there at the very least for her to have some good runs in this series. And again, hopefully her luck turns around. But Jordan Anderson's team doing a lot with a little. That is my one shining moment for your Xfinity Series weekend at Talladega. And that's going to do it for us here tonight. So thank you so much, as I said, all of you for continuing to keep up with our show. And be sure to follow at Grid Network TV on all our social media platforms, X/Twitter, Threads, or Blue Sky, whichever microblogging platform of the 3 you are on these days. We're on all 3. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, LinkedIn. Most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website at gridnetworktv.com. Now, like I said at the start of the show, if you really like what you saw tonight, you can take a few minutes afterwards here and consider joining our Patreon. Join Colin, Michelle, Mark, Robin, David, and Matthew in helping us continue to grow our motorsports media outlet through their monthly contributions to us. It's allowed us to continue to expand our trackside coverage and really helped us continue to grow our motorsports media outlet here. So we appreciate those 6 nonetheless. And if you'd rather make a one-time contribution to us instead, you can visit the Buy Me a Coffee link, or if you're watching us on YouTube, we have the Super Chat feature enabled as well. Now, looking ahead at our upcoming schedule, Kobe, Josh, and Matt will be back on Wednesday for Grid Tonight. You can stay tuned as we continue our new pre-race show format. I know a little bit of a weird scheduling deal this weekend. Some things came up, so the NASCAR pre-race show was on Saturday, but I believe that will be back to its regular schedule this week. Obviously, if that changes, we'll all let you know. Women in Motorsports will hopefully be back this week as well. We've got a Miami race weekend to preview, and obviously lots to talk about with Catherine Legge and Isabella Robusto, Talladega. And then Grid Live will be back for wrap-up. Big weekend with Barber, Miami, and Texas. And then Encore's back in a week like always. Brandon, any final thoughts before we sign off for the night and get ready for all that racing we've got coming up this week?
Yeah, for some reason, I've been shopping at Walmart for the past few days. I don't know why that's been happening. And also we're going to Texas this weekend, Texas Motor Speedway. No relation between those two ideas whatsoever. And also I just saw the video of you drinking Dilk, and you said it's not only good, but you'll never have it again. It reminds me of Pilk. That's Pepsi with milk. And I think I tried that. I don't know how I got swindled into that, but I think I might try this Dilk combo and get back to you on it.
Hey man, Mountain Dilk, chocolate milk, satin silk. Lakers are not winning in 5. I can tell you that. They might lose in 5, but I don't think we have to worry about that anymore. Wolves up 3-1 in that series. But yes, I did. I knew as soon as I saw that short, I had to try it. So it's just a matter of getting that 2 liter, getting the milk ready to go. And yeah, it was. I know I said it wasn't bad. It wasn't good necessarily either. It was tolerable.
Was it whole milk?
It was whole milk.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, don't ask me why I tried it. I knew I had to.
I'm not asking. No.
As a Baja Blast fan,
you have to. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was no way around it. It had.
I mean, I know you got that 2 liter still, but you probably have like some cans in your arsenal, like right now. So I mean, it's just kind of what you do.
Yep. Yeah. It was a fun experiment, but like I said, I'm not gonna repeat it. Glad everybody enjoyed it though. I've gotten some good comments from that one. So, hey, think of it this way: I tried it so that you don't have to, and I reported back to let you know, and we can leave it there.
That's a nostalgia critic thing, isn't it?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. For Brandon Crossland, I'm Ben Schneider. Thank you all so much for watching Encore this week. We will see you next time right here on the Grid Network.